Sunbreak Title Update 1 will be the best title update in Monster Hunter history.
Why would you say something so controversial yet so brave?
I know, I went there. Okay, that may be hyperbolic, but is it hyperbolic? Hyperbolic. That's one of those words that the more you say it, the more it sounds made up. Which also feels weird to say because, like, all words are made up. Anyway, I'm completely digressing here. So, title update 1 for Sunbreak is meaty, right? It is voluminous, it is big, and it contains new stuff across the entire depth and breadth of the game. In fact, the only thing that I can think of that wasn't really, like, revealed or shown, or we probably might not get, is better or new or extra decorations, like double attack in a 4-slot, which is a little bit shame for set building. But everything else across the board? I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? And it does all feel like natural progression of the game, as opposed to just, oh, we separated this off and updated it later, which COVID kind of seemingly forced for base Rise. So let's actually kind of have a look at this, right? I would argue that if we go back to World and Iceborne, which is really the only comparisons of games with, you know, proper meaty title updates that add proper new monsters and gameplay mechanics and real reasons to come back and play more, I would argue the single biggest deal, biggest content title update of World and Iceborne was probably the Safi'jiiva update. It's a close call, it really is. Fatalis, of course, we got all of Shrade, which was a big deal. Alatreon was a whole new monster and a new implementation of a black dragon, but that's all it kind of was. It was, here's Alatreon, his fight, his equipment, have fun. And while that was amazing, oh yeah, there's Frostfang Barrioff too.
Sad Frostfang noises.
It isn't the craziest amount of content. So, I've picked the Safi one because we get Stygian Zinogre, that's one monster. We get Safi'jiiva, a big deal new monster. We get the Tundra region of the Guiding Lands, so that's kind of like a new map, certainly as big as the Forlorn arena will be. We also get an entirely new endgame system in Safi'jiiva equipment, upgrading it with Dracolite and rolling for the perfect weapons. I think that's the kind of, well, best comparison to how much we're getting in Sunbreak Title Update 1. And when you kind of put that together, well, it still pales in comparison to 4 new monsters, a new map that, yes, it's an arena, but it's well loved, and it is still technically a new map, new crafting systems for weapons, that's kind of a hybrid between Safi and augmenting, new crafting systems for armor, that's, you know, randomly rolling skills, and that might end up being a little bit frustrating if you're there for 800 hours trying to get the perfect skills for your perfect armor, for your perfect build. That's something we won't know if it's well implemented until, you know, we actually use it, but in concept it's very cool. We also have the return of investigations / guild quests, a neat little hybrid of them, and then we have that feeding into this new research level that we can power up, which will then power up the quest, which will power up the rewards, which will power up the research shop, which will power up our crafting, and basically I think it's easy to argue, along with the whole new roster of flagship level Afflicted Monsters, we're essentially getting 4 new monsters, like 15 new versions or augmented monsters in the new Afflicted. We're getting at least 2, maybe 3, depending on how you look at it, new endgame systems, and we are getting the start of event quests the week after, and a new map, and you see what I mean? It just kind of keeps going. And while none of the monsters are new, they're obviously got new attacks and redone for Sunbreak, and that's really nice, but I think it's hard to argue that in terms of pure adding raw gameplay time hours to the game, this looks to take the champion king crown of, well, modern Monster Hunter and its title update cycle, and that's really, really cool. I don't want to use the word overcompensating, because that kind of feels wrong, but it does feel like they're overcompensating for Rise. I bet we could have got half the amount of content in this title update and still been like, yeah, this is really cool. So, honestly, I cannot complain in the slightest. I think it is an exemplary title update, and I love how much they're giving us to do in a way that naturally follows on with the story and feels right within the game. It's not so much random like, oh, now Fatalis, I guess, which is neat too and much appreciated, especially as it ties into the ecology of the Qurio and how that's all working. Obviously, how successful it is still remains to be seen in terms of fun, in terms of not being too grindy or too RNG to the point of frustration, being satisfying, the level up anomaly research quest, not being too brutal but still a very big challenge. How long will it take to actually get them all the way to like level 80 and such? That's also a big question. But the fact of the matter remains, in terms of pure added content, yeah, it's hard to say that this isn't the supreme title update, and that's really, really fun, that's really exciting, that's really cool. We also get more frontierness, I don't know if you realize, but even stuff like the Circle of Poison Quill Death move that Lucent's getting is a Frontier Nargacuga and Blinking Nargacuga move, which is really sweet. And of course we're getting Dread King moves on the Metal Rafts. It's like we're getting a greatest hits title update, both in the monsters and their moves. We're getting hybrids of World and Iceborne systems with 4 ultimate systems in investigations with Guildcrest. We're getting augmenting in a new flavor. We're getting similar to Safi'jiiva but on armor in a new flavor. It's like they really have looked back through Monster Hunter history, taken stuff that has always been right well loved, and then given it some new flavor and theme for Sunbreak, and now we get to experience it in this world with wirebug combat, and I for one am all for that. Even giving us proper classic double threat challenge quests like Double Furious Rajang or both Metal Rafts at once is a really lovely thing to see. And I just kind of wanted to get it off my chest how impressed I am at simply the sheer scope of what's available. Now, don't get me wrong, bottom line, the most fun thing to ever get is a new monster, whether a new returning or a new invention. That's the most immediately exciting, but it's not the best thing for getting the most exciting gameplay hours out of an update. For that, you need proper stuff to do for a proper long time. And with that frame of mind, I mean, again, yeah, this is where it's at. And even if we're going to bring in the comparison to literally the first title update of Iceborne, which was just Rajang, I mean, that is a hilarious comparison to this one, and while I don't think it's necessarily a fair comparison, different development cycles, times, teams, and so on, it definitely, I think, highlights just how good we're eating when it comes to Sunbreak and going forward into the future, and I would love your thoughts on this. I just kind of wanted to spiel about it as we get excited today going into the release tomorrow with all that entails. For now then, like if you've enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more Sunbreak goodness, and consider supporting the future of this channel on Patreon down below. Oh goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.